Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. Today, I want to talk to you about a debate that is dividing vinyl collectors. Some people see this one way, other people see it in a totally different way. And it's getting ugly. In the last few months, I feel like this debate has heated up quite a bit. And I'm somewhere in the middle. So, how do I know this? I read my comments. People share this on a weekly basis with me. Some people are more kind. Some people just let it fly and say what they want to say. But I have had some very interesting conversations and comments about this subject. What am I talking about? I am talking about people who strictly collect original records versus people who strictly collect reissues. I'm somewhere in the middle. I really honestly think that there are some situations where the original makes sense, and in other situations where the reissue makes more sense. I see both sides of it, but they don't always see each other's side. So I thought it would be an interesting video if I talk about what people have said they like about originals, what they like about reissues, talk about my own personal, reasons why I navigate in between both. I honestly think that you can build a beautiful vinyl collection by just using thought and buying originals when they make sense to you versus reissues. So I'm going to show you with examples of the reasons why a lot of people really like originals and why people really like reissues. And I am going to navigate through that and talk to you about why I like both and the positives of both and why it's okay to like and collect originals and reissues, and why can't we just all get along? So if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell. Let's get started by talking about the positives of originals. So the first thing that comes to mind for me, and what I've also read in the comments, is sometimes that's the only choice you have. So let's talk about this particular album. This is a perfect example. A wonderful record. Buckingham Nicks, Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham. They made their own record before they joined Fleetwood Mac. And this is a killer album. Now, this is an original promotional copy. And then not long after that, they made a little bit of a cheaper version, a little quick little reissue, limited in numbers. The original had a gatefold. This one does not. After that, you can't find that record. It hasn't been reissued. I think there's some unofficial pressings floating around, but for the most part, you cannot get that record, which is a shame because it's fantastic. But you have to seek out an original. Again, here's another one. Van Halen's A Different Kind of Truth. It has yet to have a reissue, which makes no sense in the world. So if you want that one, as well as Balance and some of the Sammy records, there just haven't been any reissues. In those cases, you have to find an original. Same with John Mellencamp's Whenever We Wanted. This is a fantastic record, and yet it hasn't had a reissue, and it desperately needs it. So sometimes the only choice you have is to have an original. And on the other hand, here's another reason why originals are great. Sometimes they're very plentiful and very inexpensive. And here's a couple of examples. I've shared this on my channel before. For some reason, they have done recent reissues of this, but these Linda Ronstadt Greatest Hits records are affordable. The originals are plentiful. I mean, they just don't cost a lot of money and they're great music. I can't imagine paying $30 to $35 for each one of these. They're usually pretty cheap. Same goes with Men at Work when you are wanting to have these albums. Very affordable, very easy to find in most cases. So another reason why a lot of people want originals is just the cool factor. Originals can never be remade. There's only the originals that remain. A lot of them have been destroyed over the years or just thrown away. They're in an attic, getting warped and damaged. Originals are very cool, and I have sought out my share of those. This is a perfect example of one. The Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle on the Date label, a killer US first pressing. It's a beautiful combination of a great sounding record with the beautiful original artwork, and I love it. So that is one of the reasons why I think it's very cool to buy an original, just for the special factor. Another reason why a lot of people like originals is some records get a reputation of being the best sounding copies. Talking about, for instance, Led Zeppelin 2, the original Robert Ludwig hot mix. It is a very well-known record for its sound quality. It is a killer hot mix, fantastic record. And also another that has a great reputation is the UK first pressings of the Beatles records. I only own a first press stereo copy of Sgt. Pepper, but I can tell you I have a lot of Sgt. Pepper records. This one truly does sound the best. So I can imagine all of the UK versions, first pressings of the Beatles records probably sound amazing. And I understand why people want to seek out those originals. So here is another reason why a lot of people are now wanting just to strictly buy originals. They're done with reissues. It's because it's the only way you can guarantee you're getting an analog recording. Now, I know a lot of great companies like Analog Productions. They give you a promise and they have a great reputation. Their name is Analog Productions for a reason. The owner, Chad Kassem, wants strictly analog recordings. So you do have options. But for a lot of people, they've just decided if it's going to be a record from the 50s, 60s, 70s, or maybe even the mid 80s, give me an original and I'm guaranteed to have an analog record, because that's why we're all into vinyl. Analog records sound amazing. They're warm and they just have something about them that some digital recordings don't have. And I know that's another issue, CDs versus records. I'm just talking about vinyl right now. I'm just talking about originals versus reissues. So I'm not even going to get into that. But you know what? I agree. All of those reasons are wonderful. And that's why I have this stack of records that I do. They all fit with that argument. Having said all that, now I do want to get into why a lot of people are into reissues. Let's talk about some originals. Let's face it, some of them are stinky and smelly and musty, maybe even a little moldy. The old paper smells, or there's smoke. Maybe they came from a smoky environment. They're in really bad condition. They're not clean looking. They look kind of rough. This is just one example that I have of a box set that I found that isn't in the greatest shape. It's an original, but you know what? My originals don't smell bad. They might initially, but once you get that old paper out of them, you clean the record, and you delicately can wipe off the outer covers if they need to be, very gently and with very, very little liquid. You can get those records some air and in a clean environment, and they smell good. And I have a fresh and clean smelling house, and I have over 2,000 records. So that's proof that records do not have to stink. But I get it. A lot of people feel that way. They don't want those nasty, moldy, yucky looking records in their collection. Makes perfect sense to me. So another reason why some people go ahead and go for reissues. Originals are hard to find. Take this as an example. This is a reissue, a Noble Records exclusive of the album Farm. By Farm, it is a psychedelic record. You're not going to find this anywhere. Dylan, the owner of Noble Records, has a copy, but it took him years. And he's an experienced record collector who has a store. So someone like me, I'm never going to find this record, but I'm very grateful to have a reissue of it. Same goes for another psychedelic record. This is Velvett Fogg. This is another wonderful record that I had been wanting in the collection for a long time. The originals are hard to find. There are some reissues as well, but they're hard to find too, and they're very expensive and in rough shape. So this was a good answer for me. This record is cool and I wanted it, but not enough to pay hundreds of dollars for. It's not that special to me. So I was more than happy to buy a reissue of that. A lot of people buy reissues and their big argument is, I just can't stand those clicks and pops of old records. Really? Really? Have you heard some of the reissues lately? And I'm just making a little bit of a joke here, but you know what? Yes, older records have some clicks and pops, especially if you don't clean them properly, and especially because they were played on cheap record tables back then. You know, turntables with maybe cheaper needles or stylus. We called it needles back then. It damaged the records. So they do have some pops and clicks, so I get that. Reissues can be awesome for that reason. A lot of people like to really get into reissues for the color variants. That's a whole nother collector there. People really love to have colored vinyl, and I think it's really cool too. I think it's pretty, and I fall prey to that as well. A lot of people have fallen really prey when it comes to McCartney 3. There were a gazillion variants of this, and a lot of people own a lot of copies of this record, which is okay. It's definitely not at the top of McCartney's discography, but it's not horrible. But you know what? I think a lot of people bought it because of the color variants. And I am a sucker for this one as well. I bought this box set of the Zombies. And I bought it because every single record on it has a really cool color variant. So let's just take this one for example. Odyssey and Oracle. It is on a really pretty orange vinyl. And every single, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. It's on a yellow vinyl. Each one of these Zombies albums are on a color variant of really cool color. And I love the Zombies, and I saw this. I didn't buy it for the sound quality. Let me see if I can pull another one and show it to you because they're really cool. I just thought they were beautiful records, and I wanted to have this box set. Here's another one, Zombies Early Days. And it's on a pretty red variant. So, you know, I fall prey to this too, and it is a lot of fun. So I don't blame you guys who like to collect reissues. What's wrong with having a really pretty color variant? Okay, so another reason why a lot of people love to have reissues, the bonus tracks. And I mean, how can I not show this? This is what everybody's talking about, this huge Revolver box set. Yes, there's a remix that I really think is great. A lot of people in the comments have said, I'm sticking with my original. I don't need the remix. Well, if you want to get the bonus tracks, that's another reason to get one of these beautiful box sets, and a lot of people go for that. So that's another really cool reason why a lot of people seek out these reissues. You get bonus tracks, demos, a lot of interesting things. Again, here's another really good reason why I personally like to buy reissues. I'm really heavily invested in reissues when it comes to jazz records. Here's one, The Cooker by Lee Morgan. It is a fantastic jazz record. I wanted it in my collection. I saw an original. It was in a case and it was in good condition, but it was $1,000 versus a Tone Poet that came out a couple of years ago for probably around $35. And it sounds fantastic. So that's a really good reason to get into reissues. Price. I've made the argument on both ends. Sometimes it's cheaper to go with an original, like that Linda Ronstadt Greatest Hits LP. sometimes it's cheaper to go with the reissue. And I'm talking specifically about jazz records. Love this record, but not to the point where I want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on it. I wouldn't want to and probably shouldn't. It wouldn't be a wise financial decision. But really great record, and that is another great reason. Here is another one. Condition. A lot of times when we are seeking out reissues, it's because originals are hard to find clean. This is a perfect example. A lot of Kiss records were owned by kids, and guess what? They played those records and they weren't really careful with them, and they had the cheap suitcase turntables, having the time of their lives, and God bless them for it. There is nothing wrong with that. But that's where a wonderful reissue comes in, because you can get a clean copy of wonderful Kiss records, and you're not going to hear the clicks and pops. They're not going to skip. They weren't played by kids and loved by children. So that's another one. Also, here's another thing that I run into a lot. I have bad luck sometimes with the Verve label. I can buy an original. They're usually pretty affordable, and sometimes I find them really clean. But the vinyl quality on them is questionable. So why buy an original when Acoustic Sound Series from Analog Productions sound amazing? These records that are being put out, these reissues, they don't get any better. They sound great. So, sometimes I would say it's important to get an original, and if you luck out and you get a good sounding Verve original, that's amazing. I'm happy for you. That has not usually been my experience, and a reissue like this from the Acoustic Sound Series is just what I need. One more thing I want to say, when it comes to reissues, we definitely need to find a better way to know the source. We need to know for sure that something is taken from the analog tapes. We need to know for sure that something is digitally sourced. That also helps with the decision. So that is my mix. That is why I really actually enjoy originals, and that's why I enjoy reissues. I hear both sides of the argument, and I actually navigate between the two. There's no right or wrong. It is your own vinyl collection. It is your own opinion. And as long as you're having fun with it, that's great. But let's be respectful of each other. Let's realize we don't see everything eye to eye. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe those of you who are seeking out originals, you have less competition because there's people out there seeking reissues and vice versa. So there's good news for both. Let me know in the comments, is there something I left out, something you really enjoy about originals or reissues that I did not talk about in this video? I'd really love to know, and just let me know in the comments. And please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.